to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Nope.
Welcome to the show. This is the Fantasy Footballers. Did you just say nope?
I said nope because our announcer was incorrect.
Yes, there is no Mike Wright today. I am Andy Holloway. I am doing the work, the hard work. Jason and I are here. Jason is with me. Mike is in Hawaii.
Yeah, so sad for him. Don't you feel bad that he doesn't get to be on the podcast today?
It's just a commitment thing.
Yeah,
it really is.
He just totally not committed.
Something about his family wanting to go on vacation. So it is Jason and I. We're holding down the fort today, but we have a great show for you today.
Fantastico.
Yes, exactly. We are speaking different languages.
Well, it's Hawaii time. It's Hawaii week.
That's
what they say.
We've got a bunch of news and notes from around the fantasy football world. We've got my top 5 running backs. I updated my rankings. We're going to talk through some of those. We also have Numberfire's own Joe Juan, the fantasy football scientist. He will be chiming in on my number 1 running back that I will not disclose, but if you've listened to the show, you probably know who it is. And so we've got a good show. We also are going to go through some listener questions. You can follow us on the web at the FF Ballers. Visit the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. You can submit a question for the show. There's a little submit a question button in the upper right corner. Send it in. We answer them on the show. We answer them via email. I got a quick question for you.
Yeah, shoot it.
How little can we talk about Amir Abdullah today?
Well, now that you've asked the question,
yes,
not as little as you'd like. I know you think Mike being gone, we don't have to talk about Amir Abdullah, but I like Amir Abdullah, and I am on the Abdullah Express with Mike.
I should say, I am... Wait a second.
I am. I said this months ago, literally on Twitter. I put like 2 months ago, hey, is it too late to join the Express?
No, I know you're on.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that you're on. I should have taken this opportunity without...
You should buy your ticket.
Well, I have no problem with Amir Abdullah.
Good.
You understand? I just don't think... Mike was on the show with Pat Mayo the other day, and he said... By the way, Pat Mayo agrees with me. But he was on the show the other day, and he said, Joique Bell is as good as dead to me.
Yeah, that's
something to that
way
extent.
Too far. That's just being foolish.
Yeah, I just don't think Joique is out of the running. I think Amir Abdullah is awesome. I think he might be great. We've seen Reggie Bush and Joique Bell have good seasons in Detroit.
Yeah, I expect Amir Abdullah to take over that Reggie Bush role. And going into last season, who did we draft first? We drafted Reggie Bush. The one difference that I see is that Mike expects Amir Abdullah to get goal line opportunities.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
He cannot. No, he's a respectable human being. He has any semblance of...
No, but I mean, I don't see any reason they would bring Amir Abdullah in for goal line situations over Joique Bell. Joique Bell
never
will be the goal line back.
Pat Mayo made the same points that I'm making, which is the fact that, Detroit does what they've always done, and they like third down. Joique Bell knows how to pass protect and catch the ball.
I think if you took your position on Joique Bell, which is too high, you're not willing to realize that he's regressing. He's older. He's coming off of knee surgery, and he's got a stud back.
Yeah, I'm letting opportunity sweep all those things away.
And Mike's crazy train of Abdullah being for president. Yeah, there it is.
Yes, Mike's crazy train.
And if you put those two together and you just found out what is true, you'd be right where I'm sitting.
Oh, okay. So not bad. Like I said, good show. Lots coming up. Be sure to check out our brand new YouTube channel. We've got a lot of answers on there. Talk some running backs on there. Let's go ahead and read a review.
Reviewasaurus Rex.
Hold on. Before you read this one,
I'm so excited.
I want people to know they should be watching on YouTube at this exact moment.
Yes, you should. Well, this one comes in from Nignog24. Review title is Legendary.
I like it.
He or she says, if I had to describe this podcast in one word, it would be indescribable. The combination of knowledge, humor, and sound quality is something only comparable to the crunch of an Oreo double stuffed cookie.
Incoming. Oh my goodness.
That's a double stuff in my mouth.
How is that double stuffed cookie?
It's very good.
Yeah, look into the camera.
It's just the right amount of cream. We don't have any of this nonsense Oreo.
Hold on. Let me hold this up. This was a brand new container. And this is how many times Jason decided he was going to test the microphone to see if it could pick up.
Yeah. There's a lot of
double stuffed Oreos.
You can't just test it once.
There are at least 10 tests in here, it looks like.
And
so,
I think I'm going to have to keep testing this.
It's good that you're putting your mouth where your mouth is. Is that with double stuff?
Someone from Nabisco
said
they were going to send us
a case,
which I interpret as a crate.
Yeah, maybe he said crate.
No,
a truck.
I believe it was train.
A train
sending
car.
a train full of Oreo double stuffs our way.
You will get so much love on this show if you send us a train car of double stuff.
Yeah.
But it's great. That was
But thank you, Nignog,
exactly.
for your review. We appreciate reviews. Our Foot Clan, which is the name of our fans out there, we just love you guys so much, and we appreciate the swag. Give us 5-star reviews on iTunes, or if you're on Android, Stitcher, wherever you are. We really appreciate them. Helps us stay up in the rankings. And
yeah, I sent out a bunch of Foot Clan decals this week.
That's true.
We did a little contest on Twitter, brand new decals for the Foot Clan. In fact, we've even got a Foot Clan. What is that? What would you call that?
Fiberglass
a
sign?
Yeah.
A plaque? I don't know.
That was made. It's on our wall on the studio.
Everybody should be on YouTube right now because we are being very visual for a podcast, for an audio podcast.
That's true. So thank you for the review. You can leave those on iTunes. We appreciate them. On Stitcher. Thank you so much for dropping us some love. All right, let's get into some news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
This is the part of the news and notes section where Mike would want to chime in and say that there was some negative press about George Bell and the fact Detroit is a little worried about his health.
Yeah.
But
he's not here.
He's not here. Adrian Peterson.
Give him that money.
We have come a long way with Adrian Peterson since the beginning of this offseason.
Long were the days that we as Arizona Cardinal fans thought we were going to get a hold of AP.
There was a chance.
Now he's locked in because even
Dallas. He's going to Dallas.
A lot of people said next year he's going to be gone. He's going to be cut.
Just a difference. So much of a difference. I guess the news is that he signed a contract restructure deal. Gives him $20 million guaranteed for
over 2 years.
Yeah,
right?
over the next 2
year,
years.
He had no guaranteed money. Now he's got it,
which is what he wanted and what he was leveraging for. But he backed off so much from the you treated me bad.
Fantasy-wise, this really just impacts Jerick McKinnon the most because a lot of people were really thought he was 1 year away from being able to step right into those shoes, and clearly, barring injury, he's just not.
And the dynasty side of AP.
Yeah, that's true.
In a sense, we didn't know. He was so unhappy, seemingly, and ready to leave, and now he's a Viking.
Yep.
And that team's pretty good. I think that team's pretty good.
I do too.
One more bit of news here out of Denver. Emmanuel Sanders is expected to move. This is big news.
I
He's
agree.
expected to move into the slot on 3 wide receiver sets. So this means that Cody Latimer is moving to the outside.
When I was looking up early pre-draft, I was doing all the kind of post-season stats, and I really loved Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, I looked at how he caught the ball, the routes that he ran, the positions that he played in 2 and 3 wide receiver sets, and this is a big change. And this isn't so much a big change for Emmanuel Sanders. I still like him in a PPR. He might even go up. I could see Emmanuel Sanders with 100 receptions in a PPR this year. I don't have any problem with him, although I do think his yards per reception are going to come down.
And his touchdowns.
But Cody Latimer was not able to get on the field. And, of course, John Fox was the coach. Mm-hmm. And John Fox hates rookies with a passion. I think he's got that tattooed on him, rookie hate. And
no Wookiees, no rookies.
Right, which is a big reason I'm a little bit down on Kevin White this year. But Cody Latimer is a very talented wide receiver who was drafted highly in one of the best wide receiver draft classes of all time, and now in a 3 wide receiver set, which
with
they're
a decent
run
quarterback.
A lot. Yep, pretty
good quarterback.
I think Peyton Manning is gonna. I'm gonna bold predict Hall of Fame.
Yep.
I think he's going to be Hall of Fame. And so you have Cody Latimer on the outside, a talented receiver with...
So compare Cody Latimer's potential this year with what we saw with Emmanuel Sanders being underdrafted last year. I know it can't be a perfect parallel. Emmanuel Sanders has been proven in the league, but we also hadn't seen a season from Emmanuel Sanders like we saw last year.
Yeah, I think the big difference
look at
volume.
Andre Caldwell made plays on the outside for Denver.
And that's what it's going to be, right? So I think Cody Latimer is going to be more of a standard league guy. If you're in a non-PPR, he's going to get those bombs for touchdowns, I think. I think he's going to have games where he puts up big numbers, but he's not going to be a week in, week out guy. In my opinion.
He's somebody we got to start talking about now, which is why this news is so big.
Before this news, to me, Devontae Adams and Cody Latimer were kind of neck and neck, and now I'd take Cody Latimer ahead.
No, that's a good comparison. Justin Hunter has been arrested for assault. I don't like seeing people arrested for assault.
Yeah, me either.
But what I do like is when I am tempted in a small, tiny way to even care about Justin Hunter And he goes and does this and makes it really easy for me not to care about him.
Yes. No, that's a good point because he's not a good wide receiver. You
No.
have to be able to catch the ball as a wide receiver.
And generally, those guys aren't getting arrested for assault or involved in those situations.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, because
Does
we
this
saw
do anything for the rest of the, I think
it does
Kendall
a little
Wright-
bit. Kendall Wright is a bounce back candidate anyway.
For sure. He's going to have an accurate quarterback.
Dorial Green Beckham, Eddie.
I've got bad news for me. Great news for you, Andy.
Oh,
Yeah, and I'm so glad Mike's not here because he would rub salt in my wounds.
is it Mariota related?
It is Mariota related.
Oh.
I just
You did your
I've been doing my
quarterback.
stats, and I actually have this is really
So let's tell the
bad.
listeners we have a water bet.
We have a water bet, and I took a water bet against you two that Jameis Winston would finish the year with more fantasy
Yep.
points than Mariota.
Yep.
And I statted them out, and I really looked deep, and at the end, I wasn't even thinking about that. I wasn't doing those two guys. I was doing everybody, and at the end, I looked.
Mariota's ahead.
I got Mariota statted ahead. So I actually disagree with my own
I was
water
saying you
bet.
have to hope you're wrong to be right.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to be rooting for Winston, but I don't believe it. And so this is one of the cool things that we
I did
do,
the same thing with Forsett. And
is that we try not to go on gut here. We love gut, and gut matters.
You've got one. I mean,
I'm working on it right now. Grow that gut.
I'm going to start eating
Now you
those
got to
soon.
talk for a second.
I know. No problem. No problem. Let's transition to the other bit of news, and then I'll
Sure.
let you. We'll talk about that in the my rankings.
Yeah.
Okay, because that'll come up. Le'Veon Bell's suspension. Not a lot of update there. Obviously, everyone's paying attention to it because right now it's 3 games, and that's impacting his position in the drafts. Roger Goodell basically came out and said he has no clue what's going on with the suspension. So
ask somebody else. I'm not dealing with that.
yeah, we don't seem like we're closer to a change, but just keep that in mind. We don't have any update on the Lev Bell suspension. Obviously, if it gets cut down, I don't think it will be.
Me either. We're too close.
Yeah.
We're too close to training camp and opening
There's
those
too many
things
other
up.
people to suspend. Justin Hunter's in the waiting.
Yeah.
All right, just a reminder to everybody out there, if you're getting ready for fantasy football every single day, that would be daily fantasy sports.
Yeah, it would.
And FanDuel.com, you go on there, you log in, sign up your account, use the promo code BALLERS, get up to $200.
Big news on that, too.
Tell me about it.
FanDuel has released their week 1 prices.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, so
on
you
players?
can get in, you can get in there right now, get your deposit bonus.
I got to go.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I want to log in like
That's
right now.
why I was talking about this morning. So anyways, yeah, so
That's
I
funny.
would definitely
Dude,
use our promo code BALLERS. It helps you guys, helps us, gets you up to $200. So when you sign up, make your deposit.
Do you
and
see? Do you see what is
get that
on
matched up
on
to
my
$200.
notepad right here?
Nothing?
No, not nothing. What is that? That is a
smut-
piece
is
of
that-
your Oreo that has come
Wow.
all the way across.
from the other side of the desk. I am such an impressive eater.
That is, I have chocolate on my notepad.
Working on my gut instincts. But
Not
my
too
point
bad.
that I was saying earlier is that while gut matters, and
Yeah.
it does, people that want to discount it, I think are wrong because people have a history of good gut calls. But we do stat everybody out, and we are very analytical here. So sometimes, for instance, on my gut, I don't really love Ben Roethlisberger, but I statted him out, and he was my number 5 quarterback. And so I'm going to go with that over my gut.
All right, let's go ahead and talk some running backs in today's show. I went through my rankings. I released a new set of rankings, wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, and I came up with a new top 5. Some things changed. Some guys went up and down, even guys we're not talking about today.
Now, this is standard league scoring,
This is
right? So that
based
means
on
no
standard
PPR,
league scoring,
no
no
points
PPR.
for reception.
So I've got my top 5 here. I want to get your opinion on them. I've got 5 guys. Maybe you'll be surprised, maybe you won't. But number 5, we're talking about Jamal Charles.
J. Charles.
Now, he's going – he's in that top consideration. There are guys taking him at number 1.
I think most lists have him at about 2. I think his average is about 2.
And so he's my number 5. The big headline with him is he only got 206 carries last year. And so you can look at that 2 ways, right? Warning sign because the offense just isn't giving him the ball enough. Or, he did a lot with 206
Exactly.
carries.
He doesn't need as many carries to do what he does. And I think that that's more likely the situation is the fact that he's not going to all of a sudden get less carries than he got last year. And even with those carries last year, he produced pretty darn good with that.
High touchdown totals for low carries. He had 9 touchdowns last year, coming off a year before that with 12.
Well, he's just he's a phenomenal running back. You watch him with the ball in your hand, and it was so frustrating last year as an owner watching him not get the ball more. And then after the game, have Andy Reid say, I should have got Jamal Charles the ball more.
That was tough.
Yeah, I know.
But despite that, 14 total touchdowns because he's catching passes. I mean,
he
five
takes him to the
five
house.
passing touchdowns last year, 7 the year before. So back-to-back seasons of 19 and 14 touchdowns. Regardless of your carry numbers, he's still averaging 5 a carry. And so I think regardless of the Andy Reid variable, he's a great running back.
Yeah, he's my number 4.
Okay.
So we're both down just a smidgen on him than the average draft position, but
Sure.
I mean, still top 5.
It's very marginal, the difference here. And then, again, we're talking about he probably comes up a little in a PPR.
For sure.
Over probably my next guy on this list. So do you want to move on to number 4?
Yeah, let's take a look. Who you got?
Jeremy Hill is my number 4 overall running back, 222 attempts last. I know. I don't have
4.
a tattoo to like tear my shirt off and display. But in a standard league, I think Jeremy Hill's the new Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, so this
is
is
a bold statement maybe.
That's the question that I wanted to bring up to you because the difference in our guys, you've got one guy off the list that isn't on your top 5 who is on mine, and actually, spoiler alert, he's my number 1.
Yeah,
so I
I
think
know.
you're crazy.
Okay.
However, the one guy that I have in my top 5 that you don't is Marshawn Lynch. So really, it's Marshawn Lynch versus Jeremy Hill, new blood versus old blood. It's both of them are great in a standard league. They project to score touchdowns, to get the rock a lot.
Is that one of those things where they're still close in our rankings, right?
Yeah,
Jeremy Hill and Lynch. Lynch could have been here for a lot of lists. Hill off this list. So is that a personality thing for a fantasy player where they want to put in what's been working versus what has long-term upside? Is this going to draw the line a lot in redraft versus dynasty leagues? How do you see those two guys? Because do you believe Hill is a future Lynch type guy? He's a first and second down, goal line, good yards per carry, between the tackle, stud. 222 carries, 9 touchdowns on the ground last year, 5.1 a carry.
Yeah, I do, very much so. In fact, in my rankings, when I looked at yours and I saw you had him at 4, that's so high for a guy who really only came on half of a year last year. And I went back, looked at his game logs, and looked at my statting for him. And I've got him in a standard league. I've got him, I've got him at number 6. So I'm not that far off. And the question is, really, who would you rather have? Tried and true, which, in my opinion, in a redraft league, if you're not keeping anybody, you can't keep anybody at the end of this year, I'd much rather have Marshawn Lynch. Because I feel like even though there's maybe minor question marks with Lynch, like the fact that they lost their center, Max Unger's gone, and Jamie Grand comes in, you still know what you have in Marshawn Lynch, and they paid him a lot of money to take that ball. Whereas in Jeremy Hill benefited from Gio Bernard's injury, and then after he came back still had a huge workload, but you have no guarantee yet that he's going to be the guy getting 275, 300 carries. If he does, he's going to be an absolute beast.
That's a projection, and that is talent plus opportunity plus offensive system.
To me, if I can keep a guy in my league, I go Hill over Lynch. If I
Right.
can't keep a guy in my league, I go Lynch over Hill.
Yeah, and the one thing about Lynch too is he's going to catch more passes than Jeremy Hill will.
Yeah.
And that's changed more in recent years. But
Jeremy Hill can catch. He just isn't used in that role.
So the
Kinda like
listeners
Joey.
understand then the difference that I have statistically with them has to do with touchdowns. I have Hill actually scoring 2 more touchdowns than Lynch this year, and then I have him about the same amount of carries, and I just have his yards per carry a little higher, so he's got a little bit higher total carry number. So those things, they're so close. But he's my number 4. Jamal Charles number 5. Jeremy Hill number 4. Number 3 was
Bing, bing, bing.
is he your number 3 too, or what is that?
No, his last name.
Oh,
Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell is my number 3 overall running back right now as of July 22nd.
He is, however, also my number 3. So the Bell is very appropriate here.
Yeah, we have a consensus. 290 carries, 1,300 yards, 4.7 a carry, 8 touchdowns on the ground, and he caught so many passes, 83 receptions on 105 targets, 3 touchdowns through the air. He was the workhorse of the team.
For sure. He was the cog that one of the cogs, but he was really the centerpiece of the offense. He opened it up for the receivers. He took all the dump-offs, and when you got the ball in his hand, he got, yards every single time. So he's a valuable tool that I think they're going to miss for those first few games. And so my question really is on his knee.
That's what I was going to say.
We barely talked about that last episode. Everyone worries about the suspension, and I think that's something you can overcome in the draft. If you know you're drafting him, then you make appropriate picks later in your draft.
Maybe he becomes a value.
Yeah, exactly. Because if he wasn't injured, he would be everyone's number 1. I think without a doubt.
1 or 2.
He was such a difference maker at running back last year. You just have to take the gamble that he could reproduce that. But with the knee injury, is there any consideration for you? Let's say you're on the board and Le'Veon Bell's there and Marshawn Lynch and Jeremy Hill are all there. Is there any chance that you would say, I'm going to take one of those guys? Or in my case would be easy, but I won't say that.
The answer is yes, because those decisions, these rankings aren't, these are vacuum rankings.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm in a draft, I know the teams around me, depends on those type of things. I mean, I might not want to take a guy that's sitting for a quarter of the fantasy season.
Right.
And it could be as simple as that. Why, if a guy is statted so closely in your mind, why take the guy that could miss 3 games?
I can answer that question for you, why you would. And the reason you would is a wrong reason. It's because your sheet in front of you says he is higher than those other guys.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're kind of bringing up. Don't be blind about your rankings. I make rankings, and then when I go into a draft with those rankings, I sometimes reorder them depending on, obviously, on the draft. But I'll take a look at the makeup of my team and those around me and say, if this is a really competitive league and I'm going to have a struggle to make the playoffs, then I'm not going to take Le'Veon Bell because I want to make sure that I make the playoffs and don't just worry about winning the championship and that alone and missing out on the playoffs and being an idiot.
Yeah. I mean, if you know that you are probably going to draft wide receiver with your second pick, your third pick, because of the way that your draft is going or the way that you think it will go with the other teams,
your draft slot,
what's available, then you make that decision. Do I really want my only running back that I can play to come in the 4th or 5th round?
Yeah.
But for the first 3 weeks. So just like what you said, you have to consider those things. But Le'Veon Bell, I think at the end of the year, statistically, the way I'm projecting him is number 3.
Yeah.
And for you as well.
Me, yep.
So number 2 is Adrian Peterson. We talked about him in news and notes. It's not often a guy with 21 total carries last year ends up at number 2 on a ranking, but there is only one Adrian Peterson.
There is only one. And
money is not his motivation on the field.
You know what's funny is that when I look at my top running backs, you've got a handful of guys, right? 5, 6, 7 guys that are top tier workhorse running backs, and each one of them, I just basically put how many question marks do I have behind them?
Yep.
How many question marks do I have about Le'Veon Bell? I've got his suspension. I've got his knee. Jeremy Hill, he's young. He's got this. Marshawn Lynch, he's got Max Unger leaving. He's got Jimmy Graham coming in. I've got the question mark kind of category, and that's almost my separator in those top guys. And it's so funny to me because I look at Adrian Peterson, and I'm not even joking. The thing I love about him is that he has 0 question marks to me, which is ludicrous because he should have question marks, right? He had a whole year off. He's old. But he's Adrian Peterson.
The number that you need to pay attention to is 7.
Tell me why.
Because that's how many consecutive years he's had double-digit touchdowns in the NFL.
Yeah, and over, I think, 1,100 yards or 1,000 something.
He had one injury short in 2011 where he ended up at 970. But he is like you said, no question marks. I mean, Jerick McKinnon, if you want to know what Jerick McKinnon's role is, it's going to be to come in on 3rd down every 5th drive.
Right, exactly.
I'm serious. That's the actual.
That is what it's going to do.
You don't take Adrian Peterson off the field. You put him in a situation now with Norv Turner.
He's your clear goal line back.
He's your clear goal line back.
He's a good pass catcher. They've just never utilized him.
No, I mean, he's caught 50. I mean, he's had 43 receptions, 40 receptions in the past. Yeah. And Teddy Bridgewater is there, and that offense is going to be better. Charles Johnson, guys around him. There's a lot of reason to believe that Minnesota will be in ball games.
Last time people doubted him, obviously, was when he had the ACL injury, and people didn't want to draft him, and he came back and was a monster, like not a human being.
No.
And then you give him rest right now, and he has a chip on his shoulder the size of Texas. Yep. And I really, really, really think, I mean, to me, he
got $20 million on his shoulders now.
Yeah, he's my number 2, and I really struggle. When I've got that number 1 spot.
Yeah, I struggle not taking Adrian Peterson.
I struggle not taking Adrian Peterson.
I have him at 280 carries for 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns on the ground, and up to 45 receptions in the air, which will be about that would be his career high in receptions. He's done the 40, 43. But with Norv Turner there and what he's done with LaDainian Tomlinson in the past, the potential for Adrian Peterson and that team being in every ball game or a lot of ball games, I think sky's the limit.
Who else could possibly be stealing goal line carries from Adrian Peterson? I mean, that's all you need to know.
Matt Asiata.
Yeah, I totally forgot about Matt Asiata.
You want to know what's funny is my number one guy, we're going to move to him right now.
Should be Eddie Lacy, but
It is not Eddie Lacy, which means that Eddie Lacy, just so everyone knows out there, I love Eddie Lacy. These guys are close, right? They get statted out close. He's my number 6. Okay, so he's out of my top 5, which is why we're not about to talk about him. You talk about question marks. This next guy I think has I don't think he has very many. And we'll debate this.
Yeah.
Arian Foster is my number 1 running back this year. No, it's not 2012, but Arian Foster is my number 1 back for this season.
Look, when he played last year, he was an absolute game changer. It's the same argument of Le'Veon Bell, people that love him, because you are going to beat every other running back that you're going up against week in, week out when he's on the field. He gets the carries. He is a phenomenal running back. The question mark to me, injury. I don't have many question marks. Yeah. There's just one, but it's a bigger one. I've bolded that question mark in my font, and that is his injury.
I understand that one. Last year he played 13 games. He got 260 carries, 1,246 yards, 8 touchdowns on the ground.
If he did that over 16 games, you'd be happy.
If he did it over 16 games, we saw it in 2010. 327 carries, 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns.
Yeah, he is.
That's what people think about Arian Foster, and the beautiful thing is we're going to bring in a minute here, Numberfire's Joe Juan.
Well, let's talk to him and get his take, because this is really talking about Arian.
Yeah, so let's do it. Let's bring in Numberfire's Joe Juan. He wrote a great article, and we're going to talk to him right now.
You talking to me?
All right, the Fantasy Footballers Podcast is excited to welcome in a friend of the show, the fantasy football scientist himself, Joe Juan. How you doing, Joe?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm going to warn you right off the bat, I do not have any beakers or Bunsen burners. Is that going to be an issue?
No, that's fine. I brought my own.
That's good. Joe and we became fast friends when a couple of months ago, or I guess about a month ago, as I was sitting on my island in the middle of the ocean with Arian Foster as my top back, I see this article come across my Twitter, and Joe hits me up and he sends me this link, and Joe and I both believe in Arian Foster this year.
Yes, definitely. It was a pleasant surprise to hear you say that you also liked Arian Foster at the top of your boards. For a moment, I thought you were kidding, but Mike kind of tried to goad you on, and it sounded like you were serious. So I thought I'd have to back you up on that.
I know. I appreciate it. And I am starting to believe I am living in 2012 or something, because my love for Arian Foster and my love for Calvin Johnson this year is making me think I'm just going to read a board from about 3 years ago. But I just believe in these guys. I think they're able to bounce back.
Yeah, it's like the Chip Kelly system of buying players, right? Kind of get them at a bargain and perhaps somewhat damaged goods, but it's 2015 now. I think there's going to be a big bounce back, and you're going to get these guys at really good values. You could have both on your teams easily now. Yeah,
absolutely. And this article that Joe wrote goes over a lot of kind of the arguments that you hear against Arian Foster, which I get them, I guess, but they're the same type of arguments that seem to impact running back value every year and send certain guys down the board that end up performing like top-tier talents. And that's what I think Arian will be this year, a top 3 guy.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about this. Arian Foster last year, he was over 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, ran for 4.8 a carry. But some of the arguments against him, they circle around a number of things. One of them is consistency, right? There's a worry, I guess, that Arian Foster is inconsistent. And so what are your thoughts on that argument?
Well, I think the inconsistency comes from most owners having Arian Foster not knowing if they're going to be able to play him on a week-to-week basis, right? Your injury reports, there's groin injuries, there's a knee injury. But when he hits the field, when you know you can start him, he's putting up 16 points per game in a standard league, 19 points per game in a PPR in 4 of the last 5 seasons, which only Adrian Peterson has done amongst all other backs.
Isn't that the definition of consistency?
Exactly. Yeah, when you plot out the scoring on a points per game basis for the last 5 seasons for the top 10 backs in the being taken in drafts right now, there's this kind of tight grouping, of scoring for Arian Foster, you know on a weekly basis what you're getting out of him, and that's pretty much a top 5 running back performance. And
so a lot of it is circling around fear of. So you hear, I remember this with Matt Forte a few years ago when he was kind of quote unquote injury prone. A lot of that was based on even weeks he started, you weren't sure if he was going to start, right? Kind of exactly. the Marshawn Lynch back injury that shows up, but he never misses because of it. And so there becomes this aura of fear around a guy. And so one of the interesting things that I think you pointed out in this article was this 75-25 idea, where the majority of Foster's points are coming from where?
Pretty much his yardage, right? His receiving and his rushing yards. And actually, he gets a fair amount of receptions for a running back just because he's pretty much all they have over in Houston. I think that's going to continue, if not more, given, who's their quarterback? Brian Hoyer, perhaps Ryan Mallett.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but there's DeAndre Hopkins in the passing game, right? And then you have Arian Foster as your likely dump-off. So he's going to get those yards. He's going to get his yards on the ground. And he's done pretty well in terms of touchdowns. I think I saw a tweet earlier today that said that last season, Arian Foster was the 7th player in the last 20 years to score 5 rushing and 5 receiving touchdowns in a season. So he knows how to get to the end zone also. But having that stable floor of yardage is what's really, really appealing to me. You don't have to worry about a guy, if he doesn't cross the goal line, he's going to give you a goose egg on a game day.
Yeah, I mean, touchdowns, like you said, that they're the fluctuating variable a lot of the times. And when we see it all over the board from running backs to wide receivers, Jordy Nelson can catch 13, then he can catch 5. But yeah, that's an aspect I really like about Arian. Now, what about somebody who's arguing that he's been in the league for several years. When we're talking about 2012, there's a reason, right? He had a 3-year run in which he was the most dominating force in fantasy. Now he has come to, he had injury-shortened seasons, back-to-back years, in some capacity. So is he on the back end of his career?
I'd argue that he's on the upswing. He's been in the league for 6 years. His rookie year, he didn't get too much play. And at Numberfire, we have these advanced metrics, and I won't go into too much detail about it. We call it net expected points, or NEP. And the short story of it is if a player contributes to his team's chances of scoring, he gets a positive score. If he detracts from that, for example, he fumbles on a 4th and goal, you get a negative score. And if you track his efficiency, he's actually on the upswing from 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, both in terms of rushing and receiving. So it suggests that he might just be hitting his prime, and he just hit a rough patch early on with a couple of injuries.
Yeah, I looked at that chart you had in the article, and it was pretty impressive because you had his 3-year run. He slips down to the injuries, but 4.8 a carry, that's great.
Yeah. I think it was second only to DeMarco, who's playing against that massive line in Dallas, right? So
absolutely,
it's definitely efficiency right there.
So let's talk for a minute about that offense, because one of the things we've talked about here on the show is the fact that you kind of want a running back that's on a winning team. I think 9 of the 10 teams, or 9 of the top 10 running backs last year were on teams that were 500 or better. I think Houston competes in that division just because of how bad the bottom half of that division is. Do you have any concerns with kind of the offense as a whole affecting Foster or affecting, his play?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a concern, right? It's if we can be super excited about Frank Gore being on the Colts, I think there's a concern about Arian Foster being on a bad offense. But with that being said, I think they have enough weapons to sustain drives. Their defense should be pretty good to keep them in games. And like you said, they're in a fairly weak division in terms of the bottom half. So in those games, they're definitely going to be in that. So, I think I have them projected being a 500 team this season. So in that case, I think Arian Foster will be fine. And with that being said, Arian Foster's been on the same offense for the last 4 or 5 seasons now, right?
Yep.
And he's produced year in, year out. If anything, he's one of those rare instances where he's getting the ball, but he has the skills, the athleticism to get the yards on the ground or through the air.
Yeah, I think he's proving a lot of people wrong in this last couple year resurgence, because a lot of people thought, he'd burn bright for 2 or 3 years, and a system change or some of the things he does with his body would kind of knock him back and into his career. But it's surprising me a little bit, but it's why I have him at the top of the list as well. What about workload this year? I mean, talk a little bit about what you expect from his workload, and then also I want to get into kind of the handcuff situation there because it's a little murky.
Oh, definitely. In terms of workload, I think, other than his injury-riddled 2013 season, he's averaged about 23, 25 touches per game. Like I said, he gets about 3 or 4 catches, gets about 20 or so carries also. And, Brian recently said that if he's healthy, he's going to be the centerpiece of their offense. And I believe him because really there's not much else to game plan around, given that you have a somewhat inexperienced quarterback. If it's Hoyer, he's shown flashes of brilliance. We don't know what we're getting out of Mallet. So I think he's going to see pretty heavy usage this season.
Yeah. So in terms of handcuffing, I'm ending up with Arian Foster in a lot of my mocks, a lot of my MFL 10 leagues, obviously, because he's slipping. I think when you had written this article, you said he was kind of the RB7 off the board. So I'm ending up with him. So if I want to draft a handcuff, which for him I'm not sure I do or not, but if I want to draft a guy, is it Chris Polk or is it Alfred Blue or is it none of the above?
That's a tough question. From what I'm hearing from camp reports, it doesn't sound like Blue nor Polk have really distanced themselves in that race. Personally, I don't know if I'd take a handcuff because I like to stash a bunch of sleepers on my bench. But if you are looking for a handcuff, I think the early bet's on Alfred Blue to maintain that. 2 reasons for that is, one, he's already shown that he's had some big games. He's been in the offense, yes. And second, if you watch their playing styles, I assume that they're going to go back to a zone blocking scheme in Houston. And you need a little bit of wiggle. You need some lateral agility to make that one-cut move. And you see that with Blue. With Polk, it's more of a no-cut, just run straight down the middle, try to rack up yards, break a few tackles. Now, the one advantage that Polk does have is he's the better pass catcher. Blue was a bit stiff in his route running from what I remember last season. So if they want an all-around back, they might turn to Polk. And he's shown when he was in Philadelphia that he could also get the job done near the goal line and stole a couple of touchdowns when I had LaShawn McCoy last season. So
yeah, and they're both young guys. The thing that's tough about that is I'm kind of with you. If it's a guy like that who I'm not sure is a supreme talent, that's the handcuff. I mean, I'd rather be taking flyers on David Johnson or Matt Jones or somebody in the back half of the draft. But what's tough is that, like you said, this offense runs the ball. And so if Foster does go down, you probably have a decent running back there.
Yeah. I think the question you have to ask yourself is, if Foster goes down, would you be happy starting Alfred Blue or whoever becomes the starter every week, right? Yep. And that's the question that I have. And I'm not too sure. I mean, last season when Alfred Blue was starting, he was never a must start, right?
Yeah, you're right about that. Well, the good news is Foster can't go down because I've booked my whole off season on Arian Foster.
Same here.
So he'll stay healthy. That diet of his will keep him healthy, and hopefully he has a really good year. Validates both of our opinions on him. He's certainly going to have a better year than Amir Abdullah, right?
Oh, so Mike told me to bring that up with you.
Did he really?
I
Oh, he wanted to talk some Joik or Amir?
Abdullah,
Do you?
Yeah, I like Amir. I mean, Joik, when you watch him, he's very patient, great cuts and everything. But Amir Abdullah, you watch him play and he just turns heads. So let
me get your opinion on this then. Is Amir a 3-down guy?
I think Amir's a 3-down guy. Okay. Well, I'm worried about his ability to pass protect given his size.
Right.
But at the same time, for some reason, it seems as though Detroit doesn't really care about keeping Matt Stafford upright as it is. So they might just throw Abdullah out there, use him kind of like Javid Best, right?
Right,
The running back that kind of lit everything up. Concussions cut his career short, but that's who I see when I see Abdullah out there.
They're a pretty difficult team to project running back-wise, in my opinion, because we talked to Pat Mayo last week, and he's more on the Joik side, and part of that is because Detroit seems to just do what they've done, and it's not. What's tough is when I take the side of Joik in this debate, I feel like I'm like I'm the guy saying Amir Abdul is not talented, and that's not the case at all. He's obviously extremely talented. I just kind of, these guys like Joik Bell, they just kind of get work. And that's kind of what I'm seeing this year. I don't know how it will all transpire. We'll see what happens. I'm sure Mike and I will have some more spirited debates on it. But I want to thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And make sure you follow Joe's stuff. It's on Numberfire. He has great articles coming out all the time. You can also follow him on Twitter at @FF_scientist. Thank you for bringing all of your science equipment, coming on the show, dropping some knowledge. Appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, Arian Foster, my number one. You heard it from Joe Juan there. You see some of the reasons why. We'll see if I'm right or wrong, but let's go ahead and get into the mailbag.
Mailbag.
Wow.
I had to let people know that Mike is the one that normally live mailbags, and I had to mess it up.
I'm ready to leave.
Yeah,
I can't be in here anymore.
Mailbag.
Like the timing was off.
No, the timing was terrible. It was purposely terrible. I cannot be the hit man.
What was weird is when nothing came in, I felt like I
got
like
did we play
sweats.
the wrong drop?
I felt like
What's going
something
on?
is wrong.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and answer some listener questions. If you want to ask a question for the show, you can go where?
You can go to thefantasyfootballers.com and click submit a question. It's pretty easy. We literally have thousands come in, and we really, really do work hard to try to answer every question that we can possibly answer.
That is not a joke.
We just can't get to everyone, but we really tried. That's our goal, is to answer every question that comes in, and we get 1,000 all the time.
Yeah, we do. We make the effort. So we also can be reached via voicemail, 302-464-TFFB, and we're going to start off today's mailbag section answering a couple of voicemail questions.
Hey, guys, this is Bo from Dallas, Texas. Love the show. Thanks for taking my question. Wanted to ask if you could name 3 running backs who are going in the 5th round or later who you think are most likely to remain or become starters for at least a good portion of the season. So 3 guys, running backs, 5th round or later, who you think are going to be starters and, outperform their ADP. Thanks for your help.
That's a great question. That is a great question because there are guys that are slotted in as starters right now that are going after the 5th round.
Yep.
One of them is TJ Yeldon. TJ Yeldon is moving up the draft boards a little bit, but he's still a middle of the 5th round pick in 12-team standard leagues. Is TJ Yeldon a guy that we expect to keep that role, to get it first and to keep it?
Yeah, he's going to get it and he's going to keep it. I don't expect him to be necessarily a bell cow, but definitely the starter, and I can't see anyone else on that roster. I mean, Denard Robinson had a good little stretch, but they clearly don't love him because they had that opportunity and they drafted somebody and they don't give him any love. So I think TJ Yeldon holds on to it. Here's another name that I love. He's one of my favorite guys right now, and I'm so surprised because last year I was completely avoiding the Patriots' backfield. But I actually really, really like LeGarrette Blount this year. And
What's his ADP right now?
He's back
in the
half of the 5th round.
Oh, he's a great name.
Yeah, he's going to get touchdowns. He's going to be a goal line guy.
Yeah.
He's going to get the rock a ton. There will be games that frustrate you because all of a sudden he gets 5 carries because of game plan.
But he'll be the guy.
Yeah, he is the guy.
And they want to run the ball
all
there.
year long.
And the older Brady gets, the more they're running the ball.
Yep.
And barring some knuckleheadness from Mr. LeGarrette Blount, he should be the starter.
So that's 2. Who else you got?
Names that other people are going to bring up are like Doug Martin and Bishop Sankey because they're both starters right now on their teams. I don't know if there's talent in Tampa to surpass Doug Martin. That doesn't mean I think Martin's that good.
Yeah.
It just means I think Martin might be the guy all year.
In talentless situations, normally they don't retain the job. Not because somebody overtook it, but just because you have to make a change.
No, that's a good point.
You're losing games, and then it's like, well, let's throw in the backup.
Forgotten man, Chris Ivory, back of the 7th round right now.
Love
Are you
him.
kidding me?
Good value.
Yeah. So, all right, this next question comes in from Eric S. from Cincinnati. It's a keeper question. Does he keep Aaron Rodgers or Lev Bell in a 6-point per passing touchdown 10-man league? Otherwise, standard scoring and roster with a flex spot. He also signs his note to us, Cincinnati Shredder. Can you say that?
Cincinnati Shredder. Yeah, Cincinnati Shredder.
So what's the answer here?
The answer is Le'Veon Bell.
Yep.
Because the 6 point per quarterback touchdown leagues, they don't really make that big a difference. So I would much rather have a tier 1 running back than a tier 1. You're not getting any value from, later in the draft for your running back by comparison of what you can get with a quarterback.
Pretty simple too. Where would they go?
Yeah.
Where are they going to go in the draft? I hope Lev Bell goes before him. All right, this next question comes in from El Capitan in Hawaii.
From Hawaii?
You know who else?
Yeah, I was going to say, we got Mike on vacation. I think that we should answer this question from a native, Andy. I think we should call Mike right now and interrupt his vacation and terrorize his family time because he's having so much fun.
I don't have any bad feelings for a person in Hawaii.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Let me get Skype open here.
Let's
see what I can figure out. All right. I got him going. Let's hold on. Wait, listen to this.
Very nice.
Let's dial him up.
That's very nice.
Let's call him up.
The hitman in Hawaii.
It is ringing.
Hope this works. Pick up.
Come on, buddy.
This is a bad podcast if he doesn't pick up. Oh, he'll pick up.
Hello?
There he is.
Who is this?
You've been selected as a finalist on...
You're the 11th caller, buddy. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
We're recording live, but recorded.
How did you get this number?
Hey, I know you're probably got your toes in the sand, but do you want to help us answer a couple questions real quick?
This question's coming in from Hawaii, Mike. It could be in your hotel.
Yeah, I can help with a couple, I suppose. I'm getting my son on over here.
All right, let's do it. El Capitan from Hawaii. He wants to know, how good is Chris Ivory? He had a few good spurts last year, but there's a new regime in New York City.
New York City?
He'll start, I assume. He's available in the late rounds. Is he worth it? What's he worth?
What's the hitman say?
Yeah, I like Ivory as a late round running back. He was very touchdown dependent last year, so if he didn't score, he wasn't really worth anything. But he's still a starting running back who's going to be available very late, and I think Chan Gailey really improves the offense over there. We've talked about the Jets, how we kind of like their skill position players, and I like them to score a bit more. So I would absolutely take Ivory in the later rounds.
Let me ask you this. How many touchdown hula dances is he going to do this year?
Well, I don't think Ivory is known for his hula, but I see him scoring in the 7 to 8 area.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think that's where I've got him too. Yeah, I do. I think that there was a stretch last year where Chris Ivory was actually pretty valuable as soon as Chris Johnson stopped existing. And so this year with Chris Johnson leaving town, I think Chris Ivory is one of the most underdrafted guys, and he is super unsexy. But at the same time, that's the type of players that help you win. If you go running or wide receiver in the beginning of the draft, and you need a starting guy, not an upside guy, but you get a starting guy late, Chris Ivory's a perfect pick.
All right, let's ask Mike a couple more here. Well, we've got him.
Yeah.
It's
vacation
tough.
time.
It's tough to distract him from the sandy beaches. Todd from Indiana wants to know, he's in a 10-team standard keeper league, and he wants to pick two of these guys. Russell Wilson for a 10th, Rob Gronkowski for a 2, or Jamal Charles for a 1. And he notes that every time he does keep Charles, he's extremely thin at wide receiver, which ultimately I guess that's more the cost of the first-round pick, right? Because he doesn't have wide receivers to pick in this group. So Russell Wilson for a 10, Gronk for a 2, Charles for a 1. What say you?
I would take Gronk in the second. Even in a 10 team, I think that's a valuable spot to get him for higher than he would go in the draft,
sure,
especially in standard. Charles in the first, I mean, you're not getting value, so to speak, but if you like him, there's no problem locking him up there for me. And I've faded a little bit on Russell Wilson over the time, just of how much he'll actually have to produce on his feet. But in the 10th round, that's a great place to take him. So
pretty close to free.
Yeah, you're basically free for a guy who was a top 3. Was he top 3 last year?
Yeah,
and
in standard leagues he was.
So I don't mind taking him there. So I would go with Gronk and Wilson.
Yeah, I would go Gronk and Wilson as well.
Me too.
Yep.
All right, you got time for one more, Mike?
One more. I got an appointment to ride a dolphin here, so let's get this going.
Wait. Are you talking like Devontae Parker or Jay Ajayi or?
No, the clicky squeaky kind.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll let you get to it, but one more. This one's from Patrick. He writes in from Las Vegas, and he is in a 3 wide receiver PPR league, no flex. Is wide receiver in rounds 1, 2, and 3 a viable and recommended strategy? And how early should he target Kelsey because he knows he won't get Gronk?
It's everything is really a viable strategy because it's always about hitting on a good amount of players in the draft. So if the draft is dropping elite and awesome wide receiver options to you, then I don't have a problem with it. I still am old school. I like to take a running back at least in the first 2 rounds, but I've seen people be successful with going wide receiver heavy. If you're going to do the 3 wide receivers, Kelsey, I don't know if I would target him.
Yeah.
It depends on the pool of running backs that are left. I mean,
you're committing 4 early picks then to non-wide receivers, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to have to load up on running back where you can still hit with those backup guys if there's an injury or an opportunity shows up, but you're taking a little bit more of a risk in hitting on. You have a lower percentage chance to hit on those guys than with the earlier guys.
You agree with that, Jay?
Yeah, I think it was well said. Any strategy can be viable, but I actually think the problem is going in with the direct strategy of I'm going wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. That's not a good strategy. It's only good strategy if those wide receivers fall to you and you're like, man, everybody's scooping up other players, quarterbacks and tight ends are going off the board, so these elite wide receivers are dropping to me, then grab that wide receiver. But, 3 wide receiver leagues aren't that uncommon. It's very common for a 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, and a flex. And in those, I would not want on my team personally to go through 3 rounds without a running back. That's just, I'm not a 0 RB type of guy, so I would not enjoy it.
Well, one last quick question, a personal one from me to you, Mike.
Okay.
Has any of the time to get away brought you closer to Joique Bell at all?
I would not say that it's happened.
Too much sun exposure.
Yeah, I would say my skin is burnt, and nothing over here has changed my mind for an old injured man.
Yeah, you're just
especially the news that's coming out lately.
Hey, we're not gonna. That's all the time we have for Mike. Mike, right here on the Fantasy Footballers. Mike, go get that Jeremy tattoo out in the sun.
Bring me home a dolphin.
They got some pretty good tattoo artists here, so I'm gonna finish it up, and then we're going volcano paragliding, where we ride the heat vents up into the atmosphere.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Tell me that's not a real thing.
It may or may not be true.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for letting us interrupt your vacation. Get back to it. We'll see you soon.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.
There's no vacation. There's no vacation from the Fantasy Footballers.
No.
We're a 24-hour-a-day, anywhere on the globe type of group.
So, Mike Wright checking in despite... Oh, there he goes. There he goes officially.
Bye-bye.
All right, this next one comes in from Jonathan in Chicago. He says, with a late round draft pick, is it more important to handcuff a star or try to find a gem? Thank you. Love the show. This question I just got on Twitter. I'll let you know. Actually, I didn't get the question, but I got a mock draft, and I pulled up somebody's mock draft, was reviewing it for them, and they had drafted Arian Foster and Jonathan Stewart as their first 2 running backs. And in like the 9th and 10th round, they took Alfred Blue and Cameron Artis-Payne back-to-back.
I love it. I love that.
Are you serious?
I love that.
Oh, my goodness.
If you're
Can I unring any bell that we have?
We can turn that up.
Turn it over. Down. Yeah, turn it upside down.
Yeah, we're on opposite sides here. Here's my opinion to this question. The answer to this question is it depends on your roster. If you've got solid guys who are playing and you know they're they don't miss games and they're solid, but they're not superstar potential, then you take the rare gems. You go for guys like a David Johnson, or you go for guys with a...
That's exactly what I told him.
Yeah, you go for a guy with a high upside. If, however, your players are guys who have a little bit of risk there, then I like mitigating risk with my lighter picks. So,
but are you mitigating it with Alfred Blue?
Well,
I mean,
Alfred Blue is a good,
we heard what Joe Juan said earlier.
Yeah, Alfred Blue is a good question. I disagree. I think Alfred Blue, when he comes in, will be able to be better than whoever you're going to pick up off of the waivers. Put it this way: when Arian goes down, Arian goes down, is Alfred Blue going to be a fab pickup like crazy?
Yeah.
So I would draft him.
But
if I've got him on my roster,
let me ask
if
you
I'm
then.
the Arian owner.
Okay, Alfred Blue or David Cobb?
Alfred Blue. If
Alfred
I've got
Blue or
Arian.
Devontae Freeman? David Johnson.
David
Bishop
Johnson.
Sankey.
I would take David Johnson
Reggie
over
Bush.
any of them. Well, I like Reggie Bush. I like David Johnson.
Jay
The
Ajayi.
other guys and Jay Ajayi. I like those three guys. Everyone else, I would take Alfred Blue over them.
Here's the thing.
But the thing is you don't have to take Alfred Blue there. You can get
That's
Alfred Blue
what
so
I'm
late.
That's what I was gonna say. Alfred Blue and Camisardis Payne are 12 and 13 round
You
picks.
get those guys with the last positional pick of your draft.
That I don't mind so much. To me, it was the 8th, 9th pick.
Oh, you said 9th.
Or I mean 9th and 10th pick. So maybe that's where the line starts getting drawn.
Yes, I do agree that's too high to take
and you're
them,
saying
but I like getting them.
specifically Jonathan Stewart and Arian Foster are the two most injury prone or fearful guys.
Yep.
So that's a good question.
I actually have an MFL 10 where I drafted Arian Foster and Jonathan Stewart, and I got Cameron Payne and Alfred
All
Blue.
right.
So I don't
well,
disagree.
you and this guy should go off of Froyo. All right. Reminder to everybody, if you want to mock draft, be sure to check out fantasydraftwizard.com. We get such great feedback. We promote that a lot just because that's what we do our mock drafts with.
I do them every single day.
Yeah, and that's what we do our live mock draft shows with. It's free. You just go to fantasydraftwizard.com. You can choose PPR. You can choose standard. You draft against the consensus rankings of experts. You can draft against the Yahoo or ESPN ADP. It takes about 2 minutes.
You can even, if you've got a keeper league, you can port in and say what picks people have in certain rounds and set it up to your league. It's awesome.
You set the account up and just put all those names in there. So check out fantasydraftwizard.com. And a reminder.
Ballers,
use Ballers, the code when you sign up on FanDuel. This just in, you can get ready for week 1 now. Can you believe it?
Yes!
Football.
Yeah. And Mike would be sad from Hawaii if we didn't mention to go to @the_league FXX and say, put the footballers on the final season of the league because, you got new hotness and they like that.
If you love the show, which every fantasy football player really enjoys the league, and this is their final season.
Yeah, farewell tour.
And Mike, I mean, his life is going so terribly right now
in Hawaii
that you got to give him some reason to believe. So remember, go to @the_league FXX. Let him know. Make Mike happy. We miss him. He'll be back next week. Do we miss him?
I think the show is okay, but
Joint Bell!
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.